Hey gang, thanks for joining again, KP's Blackbox. This week we have Miss Aimee Darby of Eliza Hope Foundation. What a great story that Amy's going to share with us about the inspiration of tragedy and why is it great? Because she took something really tough that happened to her in her life and turned it into something really positive. So I can't wait to share her story with you and have Aimee share her story. Get your box of tissues. It's pretty impactful. But what a great message that she has for everyone who's dealing with grief and how you can overcome it. I'm looking forward to sharing that story here with you on the other side. See you soon.
180 and when rapid speed down to 2500.
Point wherever you reduce speed to 180.
Blackbox.
Where they were, yeah.
I love him so much. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, he's so sweet.
Yeah.
I'll tell the story when we do our podcast.
I'm taking my dog and going to drop him off at a trainer. I've got a Dutch Malinois that I got from a retired SEAL who breeds these dogs. And we're going to take him for a month and see if the trainer can square him away. It's in the boot camp.
I like that.
So we'll see how he comes back.
Good training.
Talking about boot camp.
Did y'all speed it up? Yeah.
Oh, man, you were third time.
Like, what happened to my voice?
Yeah, I did.
1056 Delta Con.
Wow. Like, keep in mind, I'm from 2 hours north of Paris. And when I got there in 1972, Kenny, I thought I was on another country. I said, what in the world is this thing? 'Cause those guys
Did you do the same? Did you go in a bus at
yes,
night?
a bus. I got there on the Yellow Prince. I said, what are they getting ready to do to me here? Because they're all in my face. I said, whoa. They were saying words I never heard before. Being a country boy out of South Carolina, I was saying, what in the world are they going to do to me? And what did I join? And why did I join?
Yeah.
So that's the beginning.
Yeah.
Of 13
So the
weeks.
beginning was immediate. Like, did I make a mistake?
Oh, man, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And that's another story. But as I moved forward, I looked around me, and there was 80 other recruits doing the same thing and getting screamed at. Okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
As I watched those drill instructors in action, it was something to see.
Can you remember back to the first 2 weeks what most people in our military would call forming platoon?
I remember that very well.
Yeah, I do too.
I remember.
Will you share with our audience a little bit about what that's like?
I mean, first of all, they got to get your attention. You're coming out of the civilian world. The job of drill instructor is to get you oriented really quickly, and they don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're in your face. You got 30 seconds to get in the head. There's no more restroom anymore. It's called the head. And you get in there, my friend. You make it happen. And don't you go in there and try to do number 2. You better do number 1 and get the hell out of there, right? You got number 2, which I didn't know. You learn very
Such a
quickly.
fun guy. All right.
Oh, I just miss him.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Every person that I've talked to knew him, and
Loves
they're
him.
just like, man,
Yeah, what a guy.
a piece of the universe is missing now. So
Yeah.
Levi's a great guy. That was one of our early episodes. I don't remember. Do you remember what episode? Or you don't have to remember. You can go back and look what episode that was, guys.
I think it's 43.
43. So early podcast days. But bringing this back to Luke. Luke and Terry, good buddies.
Yep.
Terry was helping Luke just try to structure the business, to do some investments and keep the wheels on the bus of the early ADS days and everything they had going on. And then somewhere in that process, Luke got Terry to leave
Yeah.
the investment business
And come with him.
and come with him. And now I think he's doing his own
Yeah.
like weapons. He's a federal firearms
Yeah.
dealer or whatever.
Yeah.
Has he been to Iraq and like dealing weapons off the back of a pickup truck like that movie? War Games.
I love that. That movie is good.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I'm like, this seems a little familiar.
Yeah. So I would guess we're probably hitting it. These guys will hit the record button and we'll just
Yeah.
start talking.
Perfect.
So they probably already have us going here, right, guys? Would be my assumption.
Yep.
So you're just capturing the early moments. So, Aimee, let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you so
and
much for
having
having
a
me.
conversation with us
Yeah,
today.
of course.
I probably should have a box of tissues. That's what Kathleen texted
That's-
me this morning.
I need one too.
Yeah, she said, so you guys might want to grab us a box of tissues here because we're going to talk through some stuff today that for you, I know will just be a little painful. But on the other end, you're very passionate about getting a story out
Yeah, definitely.
in the memory of your daughter. So I am really, really thankful that you wanted to take the time to be able to
Thank
come in
you.
and
Thank
share
you.
that. And it's for me, we've had a few folks that we've interviewed in the past that, had loss in their life, Gold Star moms. And, that's the one that probably comes to the top. And it's why we started doing a toast, is to just toast those who made an ultimate sacrifice. And, for me, you served. We just found, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, your husband
My
served.
husband, yeah. Yeah.
FC, as Shannon was
Yes,
saying,
yes.
fire control,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Now,
retired.
does that mean what it actually sounds like?
It's like weapons systems.
Okay.
Not like fire.
Oh,
like
okay.
Weapons,
I was
like
thinking
fire.
firefighters.
Yes,
See,
right.
that's a knuckle dragging Marine. Not knowing.
Yes. This is like fire control with like weapon systems on carriers.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He
how
loved it.
long did your husband serve?
21 years.
Great.
So he retired. And
Well, little salute to him.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Aaron.
Aaron. Mm-hmm. So Aaron, shout out to Aaron for
Aaron Darby.
21 years of
Yeah,
service.
21. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But you ended up in the defense contract space.
I did. It was just, I went to ODU, and I met my best friend, Christiana, there, and her husband was working at ADS, and this was, 12 years ago.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I think I want to work there. So they took a chance on this person who had no sales experience, nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I started there in 2009, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
I loved making the relationships with manufacturers and meeting customers and just seeing the whole system through, from I need this to where can I find it to getting it and them receiving it. So it's just like this full circle with that. But I met so many really good people in this business.
I will never ask your age, but for me, ADS was like the J.C. Penney catalog for the military. So can you know that reference?
Absolutely. I know it. I am 51.
Okay. Okay. I did not know.
I know. Exactly. I remember having to work with marketing on that catalog. And it was the craziest undertaking just to build that catalog. And I don't actually know that they do it anymore. It's probably an online catalog.
Right.
But just getting all of these manufacturers in it and making sure that, Surefire wants a bigger page than First Light, or it's managing those relationships, and it's interesting. But at the end of the day, ADS was and still is number one with customers because they really have figured out how to get the customer exactly what they want in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, so I don't have time to go into it today, but I had a little brief stint in a past company that I own doing some kitting and packaging for when you guys opened the facility over off of Taylor Farm Road.
Yeah.
And I had a company called ProPack.
Oh.
And so we were doing some packaging in the early days, and unfortunately the business opportunity I had didn't go well. Luke's went through the stratosphere.
Yes.
It did. So it's Virginia Beach is like the biggest small town.
I
on
agree.
The planet.
I agree.
I mean, there's so many different connections, and a lot of it we can tie back to the military.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so important to me, Aimee, that we do a toast on every podcast. Now, Aimee, in full disclosure today, she's toasting with water.
Yes,
right?
thank
She's
you
not
so
afraid.
much.
So
nobody
or
sees
white
it.
lightning, we tricked you. It's
Yes,
actually got white lightning.
All right, we'll see how I
But
do.
it tastes a lot like KP and Co. water. But in my financial services firm, Aimee, 70+% of our clients has some military affiliation. So
Yeah, everybody. It's
you can't be in Hampton Roads
Right.
without it being a military connection.
And I came from Northern Virginia, and there was no real talk of it just was so different. Here it's so big and prevalent, but I didn't know a Navy SEAL okay. And now it's oh no, this is the thing.
Yeah, you can't walk 10 steps in this town without running into somebody that's
Absolutely.
in that spec war community as an
absolutely.
example. So,
Yeah.
so simply,
go. Simply.
a toast to all of our vets,
Yeah.
those who are still serving, those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We're going to talk about sacrifice today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're going to share your personal story with that and trials and tribulations and how to overcome.
Yeah.
That's the most
How to
important part,
overcome.
right?
That is.
Overcoming
Yes.
is the key. So
Absolutely.
Cheers to
Cheers.
you.
Cheers.
And Aaron, 21 years of
Darby.
service.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Woo!
Ooh,
How's it water?
that was tough.
Yeah.
It's a little early.
Early in the morning, but
Early in the morning.
gets the gears moving. so.
Absolutely.
Again, Aimee Darby, and more importantly, I think today we're going to talk about a story with your daughter, Eliza.
Eliza, yes.
Right? I want to make sure I
Yeah.
pronounce it right.
Yeah.
And is it Eliza Hope, or is
Yeah.
that just the?
Eliza Hope was her name.
Okay.
I know.
And so, after her passing, you felt the calling. Let's put
Absolutely.
it that.
Yeah.
A
yeah.
God call to.
Yeah.
So you're going to create a foundation
Yes.
to really help children who have dealt with or dealing with a spectrum disorder, and she specifically was dealing with what? on the spectrum? Autism.
She was autistic, and she needed a lot of support. And she also had epilepsy, which some people don't realize that about, I think they say 42% of children with autism also have epilepsy. So it was intractable epilepsy, which means that she was having seizures like all day long, little seizures all day long. So
Do they call those petit mal? Is that the word?
petite mal.
Petite mal.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. My
And-
southern accent can butcher
Yes,
words sometimes.
yes. Wait, are you from here originally?
I'm originally from Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, there you go.
So that
Even the way you
tells
just
the
said
story.
Durham, I was like, Durham.
Yeah, Orange County.
Yep. So she was diagnosed when she was 2 with epilepsy, and then when she was 3, she was diagnosed with autism. She was mostly non-speaking, and as she got older, she started having more health issues from the epilepsy.
Yeah.
So the thing I realized pretty quickly when she was diagnosed was there wasn't a lot of support for families. There were doctors that would diagnose and tell you what they thought, but there wasn't a lot of support with like knowing what to do and knowing who to reach out to or how to just get the ball rolling, because there's no book to
Right.
read when you're having your baby on like what to expect.
Right. Can I ask you this? Is what's on the table to talk about today?
Everything.
Okay.
Yep, I'm good.
You're in your 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 55. Do you remember growing up? And I can think through my teen
Mm-hmm.
years all the way up through high school. I never heard of a family with a child who had any type of brain disorder like autism.
Never.
I was like, later on, I was like, well, what the heck is autism?
Right. And now you probably look back and think, oh, that kid probably had autism.
Yeah.
I've never. I mean, we grew up in the 80s, 90s,
Right.
and I honestly, the first time I actually got like an idea of what autism was the movie, oh my gosh, Tom Cruise, Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, he's the gambler.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And he's on the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
What is that
Why,
guy?
how can I not remember
You
it?
talking about Rain Man?
Rain Man.
Yes,
Tom-
Rain Man.
Isn't it Tom
That's
Hanks?
what happens in your 50s. You start
Yes.
forgetting
Oh,
shit. and just-
like all the time. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
Rain Man, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think now, a lot of people are like, oh, look, so many people are being diagnosed now. It must be something in our food, must be something in vaccines or whatever. And I really just think, and this is my non-doctor professional opinion, but I just think that we're diagnosing it more because we're more aware of it, and
More
we're
technology,
realizing
more imaging, like brain imaging.
absolutely, and we're realizing, okay, those three things, not talking, flapping the arms, all of these things, that looks like it could be, and then they get the diagnosis.
Growing up, and I have a disabled child, so I think I can say this
Lizzie.
word. Lizzie,
I love her.
Shout out to Lizzie. I told Lizzie this morning, she was in the shower, and I went in to say hello. Don't get any weird stuff. Lizzie's 24, and we got to do a lot to take care of her.
Absolutely.
But I peeked my head, and I was like, hey, guess who I'm talking to this morning? And she's like, Betsy, the German Shepherd's on. She goes, Betsy. And I go, no, good try. I'm talking to Miss Aimee. And she's like, Aimee? I was like, Aimee Darby from church. And, her eyes lit up, and so it was like,
I love her.
Tell her hello.
Well, when I was singing one day on stage, and I looked and I saw Lizzie, and I don't know, I was like just drawn to her, and I went like this. And she saw me, and she was like, I could see her go. So afterwards, I went up and I hugged her, and I was like, oh, yeah. This is my girl.
Yeah.
So sweet. Love her.
Yeah, Lizzie's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, Lizzie's went through seizure disorders early on.
Okay.
And that was some of the things that we saw early.
Mm-hmm.
Was when Kat was nursing, she wouldn't latch on.
Mm-hmm.
And then that we were like the petite mal seizures where you're just like,
What is that?
having 4 kids, she was the 5th.
Oh, so you kind of
You're
knew.
like, that doesn't look quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 months later, we get a diagnosis that she's missing a portion of her brain called the corpus callosum. Oh. So she has agenesis of the corpus callosum, which can cause seizure disorders. Now, around 11 or 12 years old, we really feel like God healed her of that. And, how God does things in life, us in our finite minds.
I know. It's
I'm
so
like,
hard to reconcile.
Yeah. How does that, and that's as a father, and I can't imagine losing a child.
Right. It's like,
So just,
it's the worst. We all know that it's the worst thing that can happen, but it's like all of a sudden you're just missing something, and you're like, it's like going to the grocery store and your child, like you lose them for a minute, and you're like, huh, where are they? That is what it's like, except it just doesn't stop.
yeah.
It just continues, and you're like, where are they? Like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I grew up a Christian. I know the drill.
Yeah.
Heaven, great. But you're kind of like, but they're by themselves, and they're like, it's my little girl.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Let's unwrap grief for a minute.
Yeah.
What were the stages that you and Aaron went through? And if I'm understanding right, she had one seizure that just kind of
It was
went
just
too
in
far.
her, it was in her sleep.
Yeah.
It's called sudden unexplained death in epilepsy. So she was taking all her medications, and she went to sleep and just didn't wake up. So they don't know a lot. Sudden unexplained death in epilepsy is similar to like SIDS, where they die in their sleep and nobody really knows why, but they just see it in epilepsy patients. So we don't exactly know, but I do know I wasn't home when this happened.
Jeez.
My mom had come to help Aaron while he worked, and my mom said that she wasn't like, she went to go wake her up, and she was like, oh, she's sleeping peacefully, and the blanket was like folded down, which she thought was interesting. And she was perfectly, it wasn't like she was on the floor or like looked like she had had some struggle in the night, because that was a huge concern of mine.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? And my mom said it looked like an angel just put their hands and just lifted her up. And I was like, oh my gosh. So that did help me to not think that she had struggled or suffered.
Yeah. Wow. And how young was she?
She was 4.5.
4. Jeez. Mm-hmm. And so you were out of town.
Yes.
And just that whole moment of getting that phone call.
Oh, it is. All right, Ken, this is like, I have never, I can still actually like think about it and like feel it. I was in the room with my 3 girlfriends. Then there was another group of girls in another room. And everybody had turned their phone on silent, except me. I was like, I just am going to keep mine on.
Yeah.
And it was on a desk across the room, so I could hear it. And I was like, oh. I look, it's Aaron. I pick up the phone. I was like, hey, babe, what's up? You need something? Obviously, you can't find something for Eliza. And he was like, hi, Eliza's very sick. And I was like, what? And I could feel my heart like start pounding. And then he didn't say anything. And I said, is she dead?
Oh.
And he said, yes. And I was like, I threw my phone across the room. I fell on the ground. I would see in movies people getting that information and falling on the ground. And I was always like, oh, that's very dramatic for a movie. It was instinctual. I just fell. I lost control. I was screaming. I don't really know what happened. All the girls were crying and everybody was crying. And I was like, I'm so far. I need to I couldn't believe how far away I was.
Where were you?
I was in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like,
It's a long flight.
yeah. So my friends here and my family, they booked a flight for me and one of the other girls that I was with, my girlfriend. And so my friend Kendra said, called one of the other girls and said, get Aimee on this flight with Dana. It's leaving at 8 o'clock. That's like an hour and a half. Get her there, and we'll be at the airport when you guys get in. So I'll tell you that so many things that day were just like God moments that it was, even at the moment I recognized it. There was a lady, they wheelchaired me out of the hotel in Vegas. Like, imagine, it's like 6 a.m. and there are people still gambling and it's like gross. And I'm like hysterical. I had no control. And there was this lady who was pushing me and she was just speaking Jesus over me. She was saying just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And I was like, okay, like that was like,
Wow.
and even when I found out, the first thing I said was, Jesus, help me. I just kept screaming, Jesus, help me. So we get on the plane, and the flight attendant is like, we are so sorry, but you have to calm down because we can't like leave until you're like calm. And I was like, okay. So they had given me a Xanax. My girlfriend gave me a Xanax. It really didn't help. Sure. We fly to Atlanta, and when I stand up, they let me leave first. I stood up. The man and woman behind me, they were an older couple, stood up with me. And then they laid hands on me and just started praying. I was like, okay, this is pretty insane. So then we get to Atlanta. They have somebody pick me up, take me into the Delta Lounge. I'm sitting there, I'm just crying. I mean, I'm just like, I can't stop. I just can't even like fathom what's happening. I wanted to go back in time so bad and not answer that phone call. It was this really fierce feeling that if I could just do it again, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it could be reversed somehow.
Exactly. So I'm sitting and my girlfriend's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, I can't move. She's like, just stay here. It's going to be okay. I'll be right back. So I'm sitting there crying. This man walks up to me. He was British. He said, are you okay? I said, my daughter died. My 4-year-old daughter just died. I have to go back. And he goes, I'm going to get you some tea. So he goes, he makes some tea, and he comes back and he gives me tea. And he said, I'll be praying for you. And I was like, okay. We go, get on the flight, sitting in the row. This lady comes and sits next to me. I'm in the middle seat. No, I was in the window seat. My friend is in the middle. The lady, she's French. And we're going from Atlanta to Norfolk. And she said, are you okay? What's going on? I said, my baby died. She was 4. And the lady goes, and she just grabbed my hand over my friend and held my hand the entire flight. So fast forward, this is just such a crazy story. I was in a store at Hilltop about 4 years later, and this lady walks up to me with her French accent and said, I remember you. And I said,
Oh, wow.
and she said, I was on the plane with you when your daughter died. And she said, I've never forgotten you. I will never forget the pain that I saw and that I could do nothing to help you but hold your hand.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you remember me. She said, I will never forget your face. I was like, this is... So when I got to the airport in Norfolk, it was like my family and my friends had like planned out with a map of what was going to happen when I land. So they're going to grab me, my brother.
Which in that moment, do you feel like you needed that? Or was it like
100%.
too much?
No,
It's good?
100%. Now, I think there are probably people that would not have liked it, but I guess they knew me well enough to know that this is what, I mean, I'm not going to be waiting for my luggage to come around, you know? So there were 3 black SUVs, just randomly 3 of my friends have black SUVs. And they basically, my brother and our friend Jason just grabbed me, took me down the stairs, down the escalator, put me in a car, and then we drove to the funeral home where I really couldn't believe I was about to go in and see my child. It was, I could barely even talk. And, you know, it's interesting. People are very well-meaning. But people also tend to just want to fill the air with words when sometimes you don't have to.
Right.
And people kept saying, she's with Jesus, she's in heaven. And I'm like, no, too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon to tell me that.
Yeah.
That's not the thing that's going to get me through right now. In the future, it did.
Yeah.
But right in that moment, I just wanted my little girl.
So it's for us, right?
Absolutely.
We're trying to soothe and calm us.
Yes,
Eliza's fine,
right.
right?
Absolutely. That is exactly what it is. It's wanting to do something, say something, because you just feel so inept to be able to. And I know that. I appreciate that. But it doesn't really help. Nothing. And so even now, when I know that someone's mom died or this or that, I don't ever say anything to try to like get them to feel better. That's what it is. Everybody in this country, like Americans, we just always want to make everybody feel better.
Right.
We want to like, the first thing we want to do is like take someone's pain or make them feel better or do something like that.
And there's a beautiful side to that.
Absolutely.
But there's also a side that you're like TMI, right?
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
it's too
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
That give what advice would you give the world
Oh yeah.
and our little world that maybe listens to a podcast and people who are dealing with grief in an immediate moment? So
right. In the immediate moments is when it's hard because you don't know what to say. And people have a tendency to just want to say something. But I would say that the best thing that anybody did for me was just sit with me, hold my hand. Don't ask me what I want to eat. I don't have any clue.
Yeah.
But just put something down in front of me and I'll probably eat it.
yeah,
But I think silence sometimes is just more powerful than trying to figure out the right words to say. And I always say to somebody when they're like, oh, I don't know, should I reach out? Yes, because I know all the people that reached out. Like in my mind, I have like got all that in my head.
yeah.
So sometimes in these cases, silence is better. Just hugging somebody, telling them, I'm so sorry, but not saying, it's going to be better. You're going to get through this. Da, da, da. She had a great life.
Yeah,
I know all those things,
yeah.
but I think less words, more.
Was there
just-
anybody you just wanted to kind of, you don't have to
Oh,
say
yeah.
their name, like
Yeah.
backhand?
Yes, and my friends were like on high alert, and they would move them out.
Yeah.
Like someone who would come like hysterically crying. And then I feel like I have to meet them in that space, which
Yeah.
is very difficult, especially if you've been crying all day and you finally have some rest. And then someone comes and is crying and you're like, I guess I should cry. And it's like all these things going on through your head. There was one girl who, she actually is a friend of mine and she works at Dam Neck. She is very familiar with helping wives or husbands, I guess,
She's probably
in the
seen a lot of
special
those,
forces,
yeah.
yes, in the SEAL teams. So her and another friend came every day, and all they did was sit with me and like rub my arm or my hand and just sat. And it was, I became so close with her just through that. In no words, nothing. I mean, really nothing.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing to say.
Yeah.
Nothing to say.
Yeah. That's a different energy that words just can't
Right.
provide.
Right.
And in those moments, I can't imagine. I mean, somebody trying to come to me and tell me one of my kids are gone and how I'm supposed to be okay with it.
Right.
Yeah. Did you ever go through any moments where you're like mad at God?
Yeah, I did.
You're like, what?
I
What?
still do that.
Yeah.
I'm still like, wait,
Yeah.
why didn't you heal her?
Right.
Why didn't you? I had such faith that, you know, one day she was going to wake up with no seizures. One day she was going
Yeah.
to speak. And she never did.
Yeah.
And she was such a little light. She was so joyful. She had no like, she wasn't aggressive. She was just a sweet little girl. And all I could really say is, why me and why not like them?
Yeah.
I had a really hard time getting pregnant, and I had a lot of miscarriages. So when I was finally pregnant and it was going well, I was like, this is like the hope.
Yeah. Cody was giving me some pre-show notes. Was it 7 times?
Yes.
7 miscarriages? I mean, just that alone, the frustration.
Oh, yeah.
The inward, like, what, what's wrong with me or
Yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah.
God, man, I wish Aaron was here too.
I know. It's funny.
Yeah.
He is the day after Eliza died, we went to see my doctor to give me medication. So me and Aaron went. And the thing that she said to us was, you have to respect how each of you grieves.
Yeah.
It's going to be very different.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, what are you doing? You're like laughing and like just acting like the opposite of me, which actually made me mad.
Yeah.
When I'm like, why are you not on your knees?
Yeah.
And it's just that's how he did it.
Yeah.
So the why me was really big for a long time. So Daniel tells the story of his really good friend who passed away probably 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And he was young. I think he had like an aneurysm maybe. I don't know. So he said, I was there. He was on like the life support, and he said, I said to everybody in the room, I said, I believe that God is going to heal him. So if you don't believe that, you can just go out and then come back in later. And he like got on top of him and he just prayed, Holy Spirit. And he says, you know what happened? He died.
He died. Yeah.
So, and that I struggled with for a long time, always hearing at churches these like redemption stories, this like healed, and we still, that's like great. That's a wonderful thing. But nobody ever talks about the not healing and I think it's so important because when you prop up these like beautiful stories of someone being healed of cancer or someone's child being healed of whatever, it makes you feel when you don't have that happen like something's wrong. Like, did I not pray right? Did I not do this right?
Yeah.
Why me? Why did you make me go through all of this? And then she only gets to be here for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I can empathize with that in a way where, with Elizabeth, people want to pray for Lizzie all the time. And I'm like, yes, please.
Right?
And we're going to believe every time
Yeah.
that she has a miraculous healing, where the corpus callosum just comes back and it's boom.
Yeah.
It manifests, and now she's,
Right.
we go get a EEG, and they, oh,
Look at this.
look, she's got a corpus callosum now.
Right.
And I try to process those things sometimes, Amy. I go, okay, what if she had an EEG? Well, number one, everybody knows, and Jacob can say amen to this in the control room. Stand by, because Lizzie's got some stories to tell, and now she can get it all out. So we're in a lot of trouble. Right, Jake? He's pleading the fifth in there. Usually he's talking in our ears. So, is Jacob in the control room, by the way?
I'm right here.
Okay. I didn't hear an amen to that, so
Like you said, I'm pleading the fifth.
pleading the fifth, yeah, okay. Amy, with Eliza and her passing, what was this journey? And I know as a parent, you're still on it, right? You will always be. But what's the story now? What did Eliza Hope Foundation, and where do you pull the energy from to even name a foundation after? What's your hopes in developing a foundation now? What do you want to do? What do you want to see in an ideal world?
Right. So, a couple days after she passed away, I was sitting on the couch, and I really think God just put it on my heart I was like, I need to start a foundation. I need to have something in her name. She was our only child, and I couldn't let her leave this world and then nobody that would be there. There weren't going to be generations of people talking about her because there were no children, other children to pass that along when we were gone. So that's just what I kept thinking. So it really was a miraculous sort of situation where I said, I'm starting a foundation, the Eliza Hope Foundation, and we're going to help families who get this diagnosis and don't know what to do, and we're going to create a center where they get all their therapeutic needs met, where they get the families feel a community, and we're doing it. And everybody was like, okay, let's just calm down. So I was working. I was still working.
Don't you love that? People are like, hey,
calm
slow
down.
your roll here.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be grieving.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And so I was not at ADS anymore. I was at one of their partners, Safariland, and I worked from home. And I had an amazing boss who knew that I wanted to do this foundation and knew that was going to take up some of my time too. But he was just like, I have nothing. I got nothing. So I was still working full time, but me and a girlfriend just really, I would run things by her and just try to figure out how to do it. And I started the foundation, and we got our 501c3 in, I think, June of 2017. She died in November 2016. We had our first fundraiser in March of 2017. It was very fresh. So many people came. They were just handing money over, because people, they want to do something.
Right.
They're going to bring you a
It's
meal,
like
or
in
they want to pay.
That moment, right?
Yeah.
Like when you first found out that Eliza had passed, from the airport story to the lady in the grocery store, people just want to go,
Yeah.
how do I
How do I
help?
help? Right.
Yeah.
And
Which I love Americans for that.
Yes.
I've got a British friend. He was at our event.
Yeah.
And his name's Ed Voice, and very, very successful guy, brilliant guy. And he actually teared up, and he was like, Kenny, he goes, in England, London, we don't like raise money for charities. This is not a thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, you Americans, he goes, you're kind of hard to deal with sometimes. You're a pain in the arse, as the Irish would say. But, man, when it comes time to give back, you're very generous. And I do have to say that about
Absolutely. I
Americans.
don't even know that if this had happened somewhere else, if we lived, I don't even know that it would have been as successful because there's just so many, the big town, like it's.
Right. We've had things like Extortion 17 affect this entire community. And, so we're
Right.
kind of pros at dealing with
Absolutely.
The loss of life.
Yeah. And
It sucks, but
all the people, so many of like customers and manufacturers just like surrounded me. They flew from other places to come to her funeral and just gave money. There was a good friend of ours, David Bohannon. He owns
London Bridge Trading.
Yeah. And he paid once we decided to open a center. He paid $3,000 every month to our lease for 4 years.
Wow.
We had Levi Wilson, who we were talking about earlier. He donated his Delta miles to Aaron's family that lives in Alaska so that they didn't have to pay for an expensive ticket to come to Virginia Beach from Alaska. We had Dave Kramer from Arc'teryx. He donated miles so that people could come. Like, you could just see the good in humanity, and you could see how people really did surround me. And, it's funny. I was in vendor relations was the job. And it was, I would become friends with all these manufacturers and just like work with them, help them get business for the customers. So it was really like social. And I'm very social. So I was good at that. I was good at like bringing people together, connecting different people. And all those people just like showed up. And a lot of them were these like ex-military men, big guys
Tough
that are
guys.
like tough, and they would cry and they would come, and it's like, I thought to myself, they bought a ticket, got on a plane to come to like the saddest thing, like the child, like a little, that is horrifying. Yeah. And they came, and I will always be so grateful for those people who still support us, who have really helped us become what we are today and helped keep Eliza's name, a legacy for her that I think was important for me in my grieving, and important for me to be able to do that while I was grieving. I had read somewhere Barbara Bush. She had talked about her daughter. I can't remember her name. She had a little girl that died of like pneumonia when she was 4 or 5. And she is quoted as saying that the one thing that helped her through her grief was giving to others. And I was like, it's so true. You cannot continue to think about yourself when you're doing something for someone else.
Yeah. Well, I think in those moments, Aimee, where you're inflicted with the absolute worst pain that I think a person could. I think back in the scripture where Paul or Peter had a thorn in the flesh. Why do I always forget that? Which the disciple
sorry.
was. So, but it was inflicted with the thorn in the flesh, and Scripture's not really clear on what that was.
Right.
But I can imagine that, something that is very painful for you, that will continue to be painful for you and for Aaron for the rest of your life, is the loss of your daughter. But a way that burden can also give you hope
Yeah.
in the future of what others can experience on this side of heaven, right? While they don't have to grieve or wait for the joy
Yeah.
on the other side of heaven of like seeing
Absolutely.
Eliza again, that
Yeah.
you can give them some relief. And I think that's what helps us all sometimes, is that when we're grieving and we've got this immense pain, that there's just something cathartic about
Absolutely.
being able to help someone else. Makes you forget that
Yeah.
that pain's there, because you get the joy
Yes.
of experiencing.
As long
Is that,
as
am I getting that right?
100%. As long as you can still feel joy, you're still like alive.
Yeah.
And some days I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Like I really don't.
Yeah.
I didn't, it wasn't like I had some plan to like take my life, but I thought, I can remember being on the plane and I was like, please, let the plane crash. I want the plane to crash. Please, please let the plane crash.
Wow.
And I think that's probably pretty normal. Other parents that I've talked to that have lost children basically say the same thing.
Are there any days now where you go back and you can get in a dark place quick?
Yeah. It's harder, but it's funny because I told my therapist this. The less hard it gets, it actually is. That is hard because it makes me feel like I'm further away from her.
Yeah.
And it's like some days I want to be right there in that moment when I find out because I'm close.
Yeah.
I'm like right there. And then, but it's
That's a slippery slope, right?
yeah.
Because you don't ever want to forget.
Right.
You want her there. You want that feeling of love and
Yeah.
joy in those moments. But you want to recover, right? You want
Right. It is exactly the hardest part is like you have this great like day and you're like nothing bad's happening and you're like, oh, but I lost my child.
Yeah.
I need to like feel that because if I don't, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything. But in my grieving mother mind, I think, no, I need to stay. I need to have this little bit of that pain still in there so that I can like access it and I don't feel so far from it. But I mean, my Aaron said to me one day, probably a year after Eliza died, and he said, I'm going to ask you something, but I hope you don't get mad. I was like, oh, great. This should be good. And he said, if right now you could bring Eliza back from heaven, she would be the same. She would still not talk. She would probably be in the hospital a lot. You would have to take her from Jesus, where she's whole and she's running with butterflies.
Right.
Or you could bring her back with you. What would you do? And I was like, it's like the ultimate question. Like, am I going to take her from Jesus, who loves her so much, in where she's in no pain, and bring her back to this place? That's like, we don't know what comes next.
Yeah.
And I didn't answer for a minute because I knew what my answer was, and I really didn't want to say it. But my answer was I wouldn't do it because that's the most selfless thing that I could do. Because really, me wanting her here is for me.
Right.
It's not for her. Why would I take her from a place where she's whole?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I said, I'm not.
Painful, but beautiful.
Painful but beautiful. But I loved that he said that because from the very beginning, he was already there. He was like, she is good.
Yeah.
She is with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, she should be with me. I love her more. Okay.
Yeah. And that's part of that stages of grief. Like it seems like Aaron reconciled maybe a little faster.
Yeah.
And sometimes there can be grief and anger and resentment
Yeah.
that people can get through the stages faster than another.
I think that a lot of things going back to my life like it was, or going back to my life, and it was hard to do things like kids' birthday parties or things like that would remind me of her, and remind me of what I lost, because losing Eliza was the one thing that my whole life I feared. I feared, and being younger, I feared having a child and losing a child. And I had said to a friend a few months before she died, I said, I don't think Eliza's going to live a long life. And my girlfriend was like, well, we will see what happens when we get there. Don't overly think about this. But it was like I knew. There's this pastor, Levi Lusco. He's in Montana. And I had gotten this book maybe 6 months before Eliza died. And it's called In the Eyes of a Lion. And it's about his daughter who died at 5 from an asthma attack. So I read the whole book. I was like, oh my God, this is I cannot believe. He went into detail about being at the hospital, him and his wife, and on their hands and knees in the hospital room praying over their little girl to please Jesus, bring her back. And they walked out of the hospital without their baby. And they were in the car and they had her little purse. And in it were invitations to Christmas Eve service that was going to be the next week that she would give to people.
Oh, wow.
And the mom said, you have to go in there and you have to give those invitations to the doctors and nurses in there. And he's like, I can't go back in there. She said, Lania would want you to. And so he got out of the car and he took them in there, and all of those people came to his Christmas Eve service.
Wow.
So I gave that book to my mom, and she read it, and she called me one day, and she was like, why would you read that book? That is so sad. I was like, I don't know. Something attracted me to that book. Eliza died. That's the first thing. I was like, somebody get me that book and get me her blanket. So I had it, and I held that book for weeks, because I would go in there and I would say, okay, they survived. They were able to survive this, so I can survive it. It was like, okay, I have in writing that they are still alive. They are still walking, still standing up and getting up every morning. It was like this sort of handbook that I needed to be able to look at it and read about their pain and then their joy. So God put all these little things in place for me. I was always so sad and upset that I wasn't there when she died. And then I think, wait, what would that have been like?
Yeah.
I would have found her. I would have, that's just not. That was like a gift that I wasn't there. And maybe I could have been in Florida, but instead of all the way across the country. But it was a gift. How I try to think about what I wouldn't have even been able to control myself.
Yeah.
And my mom was there. If there was anybody who I would want to put my little girl to bed on her last night on earth, it was my mom. To rock her. And if it wasn't me, even over Aaron, I would want it to be my mom. And so she did that. And she woke up in the morning and she found her. And she woke up Aaron and said, Aaron, you have to come. Eliza's not waking up. And that whole thing I could not have done it.
I'll take one of those.
I couldn't have done it because I just know myself, and I would have just not been able to do it. So I'm so grateful that God was preparing my heart for this.
I got a question for you. As I'm listening to you peel this onion back that's making us eyes water. How did you reconcile moving from such pain, sorrow, loss, all of those horrible words that you don't ever want to have to think, I gotta face those, to finding joy? And is it part B question? Is it hard to experience joy without feeling some guilt?
A little. Yeah. So we have a foster child right now. His name's Brantley. He's 9, and we're about to adopt him.
Oh, wow.
And he's been in our home for almost 2 years. Sweet little boy. And I feel so grateful that we have him, that he is who he is, that, because, you don't ever know. We had a child before. We had a foster child before him. He went back to his home. But he's...
Which is beautiful. That
beautiful.
He can make it back.
Yeah. This little boy came to us and the parental rights were already terminated. So we knew that we were going to adopt him. And he said to me and Aaron, when he first came to our home, he had driven with the social worker it was his 4th foster home.
Oh, geez.
And he came to our home and he said, "Can I hug you?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, do you know me?" "Oh, definitely hug me." So he hugged me and he said, "Could I please stay here forever?" And I was like, "Of course." And that gave me so much joy that I was able to say, "Yes, I will absolutely do that. I am so sorry that you have had such a hard life." So I think that has given me I've never felt badly like I'm trying to replace her at all.
Right.
Because he has had such a hard life. And how can this little boy who came to us at 7 years old, been in 4 foster homes, how could I not feel joy that I am able to give him, love?
Yeah.
And it's the smaller things that people find joy in that are harder for me, like things that aren't really significant,
Yeah.
a good cup of coffee, okay. But it's absolutely being able to know the lowest low makes you feel the joy even more because you know where the lowest low is. Yeah. I did spend a lot of time reading people's stories who had lost children, and the thing that I would do, I would say, "Oh my God, at least that's not what my story looks like." They lost 3 kids at once. At least that's not what my story looks like. At least, this a comparison, which I found that was helpful because it made me feel less bad for myself. Even now, wars that are happening throughout the world, and these people lose their children, and these moms are on their knees screaming, and then they just have to leave their children on the ground to be buried under. And I'm like, I got to hold her and have a beautiful service, and people came, and so it just gives you such a different perspective. It gives you this empathy that is almost too much.
Yeah. Yeah, there's grief, but the pain of loss, I think for every parent has, that same immediate. It's even hard to put into words. But there's a piece to that pain of loss that I think has levels, and that's the hardship, right? Mm-hmm. And if you think about war-torn countries and places around the world where a mom, a dad loses a child, but they don't have a warm reprieve to go to.
That's it.
Shells dropping around them, buildings falling around them. And so that's hardship that is hard to measure, hard to fathom. And, you know, I had a couple of tours in Haiti and Port-au-Prince, and that was the worst that I saw in my military time. But it was still devastating to see a mother or father grieve. Like I saw a baby in the ocean floating that a parent had lost, and it's just like
Yeah. Like, right,
insane. Yeah.
It's like, has God given them something that
Yeah.
they can survive that? Because if you put them together, you feel a little I feel a little guilty for, like, it's literally like the most beautiful I mean, my friends put pine cones on every chair at the funeral because Eliza loved pine cones. And, you know, all this. And I'm like, I mean, there are people who never get to
Have
celebrate
a ceremony, a
and
celebration of life.
Yeah.
Right?
And I am really lucky that I did get to do that.
Yeah.
So I have to try to put it into perspective of how she died and how she lived, and now how do I live? How do I honor that? And that's why I started the foundation.
Yeah.
I mean, those kids that come in. So we had a ribbon cutting when we first opened the center in 2018, and I was like, nobody's gonna come. Nobody's coming. I know nobody's gonna come. And everyone's like, okay, calm down, Aimee. Everyone's gonna come. Packed, beautiful, outside, right outside Phoenix Drive. And it was that day that parents were coming up to me, and they were like, we're so excited that this is open. And the mom would talk to me and would tell my story, tell me my story of how they had nowhere to go. They had gotten kicked out of daycare because they couldn't handle all this. And I was like, it's like confirmation, like God giving me this confirmation of like, yes, you are on the right path. This is your path. There's a Mark Twain quote, and it says, the two most important days of a person's life are the day they are born and the day they find out why. And that, I mean,
There you go.
yeah.
There you go, Eliza.
Exactly. Exactly. That was, and it's funny, she didn't even know. She just like lived her little life, just joyful with the most simple things. Pine cones, popcorn, bubble guppies, like that was it.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. She just wanted to be with us. And, I mean, look, she had so many things, but she did have a beautiful life.
Yeah.
And now in her death, it's still beautiful. These little children come to this center, and I see them, and I hug them, and I pray over them in my head. I'm like, let this child like live a life that people find beautiful.
Yeah.
Because so many people don't understand disabilities. They don't understand what it's like as a parent to have a child that is not going to do what you think that they're going to do, because that's just what we think.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like Lizzie, when I see her and she's smiling and she's so happy and excited to hug me and like talk to me and tell me about her dog. And, and I'm like, this is joy.
Yeah.
This is what we should all be working towards, this like uninhibited ability to find happiness in literally the most simple things.
Right. Yeah. That's Lizzie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. That's why I was drawn to her.
Well, I think there's so many young people in that space of the opportunity and the joy that we got as parents.
I know, it's so hard.
Got me. It's the opportunity, as you said earlier. I wouldn't trade it.
I know. I know. It's like you think like people are watching your story and they're like, oh gosh, that must be really hard. They don't realize the joy that it brings.
Right.
The simplest form of joy. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. Like Lizzie, Eliza, they don't care what present you bring them.
Right.
If for Eliza's birthdays, people would say, what do we bring? What does she like? I'm like pine cones.
Pine cone?
Exactly. So my friend brought her a big box of pine cones, and that's what she played with. She
Yeah.
didn't care about any of the other things. And that is like what is so beautiful. Like I bet if I brought Lizzie a pine cone to church,
Yeah.
I bet she would freaking love it.
She would.
And you know what's going to happen? I'm bringing her a
Bring-
pine cone. I mean,
Love it.
I think that
Yeah.
that is where we think of these kids, young adults, as less. People think of them as less,
Yeah.
but they are not less. They are more than we are because they aren't corrupted in their minds by
Right.
all of this other stuff that we try to like live our lives in these like different spaces filled with things we don't need and
Yeah.
that we think are going to bring us joy, and they don't.
Yeah. That's one of the things I've always said about Lizzie, and I'm sure Eliza, and I see it so much in kids with disorders and just brain disorders specifically, that they're usually really good gauges of people.
Oh, hugely.
And the beautiful thing with Lizzie, we've unfortunately run into some people in life who aren't super great,
Yeah.
but she has found a way to go, I still love that person.
I know.
And I'm like,
I know. Because they only like can see the like humanity there.
Right.
They don't see all the other things that we see.
yeah,
That's exactly right. Eliza, I always tell this story. She's at Home Depot, and she just walked up to one of the ladies that was working and just took both of her hands and went, mwah, mwah, kissed them. And the lady was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So a few minutes later, we're walking down an aisle, and the lady comes up, and she has the little orange Home Depot apron, and she gives it to Eliza, and Eliza's like, oh, flapping her hands. And the lady looked at me and said, I was honestly having such a sad, hard day. And as soon as she did that, I was like, somebody loves me.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
right?
Unconditionally.
Unconditional.
Doesn't care about your story.
No, doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that like the goal?
Right. Yeah, and that's kids who have, and I say kid. Lizzie's 24, and Eliza, she passed at 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the age. It's the exuberant love that these kids can exhibit unconditionally, which is every day. That's for me. That's like, man.
Right.
That keeps me
Right.
going, yeah. Quit being a wimp, Kenny. You got
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely. Like,
She's good. You
right,
be good.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this guy, his story is so tragic. They're from Utah. And he was at some like car race, I don't know. And his family was all coming, and he had 3 kids, his wife, his brother, and his niece and nephew, all in the car driving to meet him. There's like this sandstorm, and there's this like 21 car pile up on this highway in Utah. And his entire family is killed, except his one little boy, Blue. And he has a podcast, and he talks about how he was going to therapy, and he's like, am I ever going to be happy again? And his therapist basically said, happiness isn't the goal now.
Yeah.
The goal now is, what can you do with this one life that's going to help others, and that's going to use your tragic story to empower other people. And I mean, look, that's the truth. We all think that happiness is the goal of life. We need to be happy.
Right.
And it's like, do we?
Yeah.
Is that just America that thinks that? Is that the world? I mean, you know, if you go to South American countries or the Middle East or anywhere, I mean, happiness is definitely not like the goal. It's like survival.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I went to Lebanon with my dad 2 years ago. He's Lebanese. And we spent 3 weeks in the summer. And all my relatives, and just, you know what you do? You go and you sit at the house with one, and all the people come and you eat the food and everybody's talking and everything. You kiss everybody when they come in, and, you know, it's like there's no like interruptions of like, oh, let's watch this show, or let's do this, or let's go to McDonald's and get fast food. Everything is just so much more simple. And it's like beautiful. I didn't miss any of it.
Yeah.
Well, I did miss air conditioning.
The Middle East is
It's a little hot. Exactly. So it's really just getting a perspective at this point. I mean, it was 8 years ago that Eliza died, and I have learned more in these 8 years than in my whole life. These 8 years have shown me the good in people, have showed me the bad in people, have showed me that just because someone does something to you, or it doesn't mean that that's their whole character. It means that, you know, we are not perfect.
Right.
And we always forget that it's not just us that are not perfect, it's all the other people out there that aren't perfect.
That is so true, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because we typically take snapshots of people, and it's a lot like an Instagram. Like, we define people by what their Instagram pages today. And,
absolutely.
oh, look how happy they are.
Yeah.
Look how great they have it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was literally like a half-second flash of that
their
person's life.
Right. A half-second flash.
Right. And you're judging and I do it too.
Yeah,
and
I
complete
do it too.
transparency.
Yeah.
Oh, look
at
how great.
that.
That's cool. Oh, what a great vacation. And you don't see 5 minutes to the left, 5 minutes to the right, and how in an instant
It all
you could
changes.
get a phone call and just be like,
I'm going to tell you this. I've never told this. I don't think to anybody, but it seems very relevant right now. When we're in Vegas, okay, it's my girlfriend's bachelorette party. I for some reason, when anybody asks me where was I'm always like, the West Coast. The West Coast. I don't know why I don't want to say Vegas, because it's like, ugh.
oh,
Like, I don't love Vegas. I don't.
See, I do.
You do.
I love it.
So I'm not a huge gambler. I don't like, I play blackjack, and if I win $50, I'm like, I'm cashing out.
Yeah.
So I think that I had to, so, you know, SHOT Show. Yeah. I had to go every year for
Right.
10
ADS,
years.
you're going to be there.
Yeah,
right?
Safariland, going to be there. Like it's like, and it's exhausting, but it's fun, yes. So, so we're going out. So I get there Thursday. We all get there Thursday. And so Thursday night is the night that Eliza died. So that Thursday, we're like having drinks, partying, taking cute pictures. So 5 of us that are really close took a picture together. And it was a cute picture. And I was like, I have got to post this picture. I'm posting it on Instagram. It's getting a square. And I did it. I wrote some funny little thing, caption. And, you know, 8 hours later, I get a phone call that Eliza died. And do you know what I did? I freaking went on my Instagram and I deleted that picture off my square. Because I was like, no, that is freaking. My daughter was literally dying when I was taking that picture. It was this moment of like, that can never be seen again. And people noticed, because people had already seen it, and they noticed that I took it down. And it was this.
Anybody say anything to you?
Yeah, a couple people were like, well, a couple people said, hey, we had seen a picture and then it was deleted, and I wondered, like, did you do that on purpose? And I was like, yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell the story about it. But I don't even remember doing it. It was almost like, I don't even know why. Like, why did I even think of that? But it was like, this picture is not accurate.
I don't deserve that joy.
Absolutely.
I don't deserve that fun.
People are going to see that, and what
Yeah.
are they going to think? They're going to think I was happy an hour before Eliza died, and I can't have that. So it's
Interesting.
so complicated. It's all so complex because there's so many emotions involved, but there's also, like, I went to so she died November 11th, and it was Veterans Day. And when my husband called our really very, very good friends, and he's like, hey, Doug. And Doug's like, happy Veterans Day, buddy. Just like started going on this little thing. And then he said, could you come to the hospital, Eliza? And it was like, what the, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But I think that it's interesting to me to know that people, I was concerned what people were going to think when I started doing things. So there was a cookie party in December. It was probably like 4 weeks after Eliza died. And I was going to this cookie party. I didn't really want to go, but I was like, I'm going to go and see my friends. And then they said, we're going to take a picture. Let's take a picture. And I was like, absolutely not. I will not be in a picture because that's going to go on Instagram, and then people are going to see me, and then they're going to think, why is Aimee at a cookie party when her daughter just died? So there's so much of that mixed in.
Yeah.
So like all of it, you're like, oh, wait, if somebody, like, what are they going to say? What's somebody going to say?
Yeah.
Somebody who's never actually been through it, but still is going to have something to say or think.
Right. And it's unfortunate that's the world that we live in, that and somehow we've convinced ourselves that we can't have joy leading up to a moment of immense pain.
Right.
Or that we can't experience joy too soon
Right.
after pain.
Right. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
Is that you can. I laughed at something maybe a couple days after, and it was like, I was like, oh, I laughed.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting journey that
I don't think there's any other feeling. I'm sorry to cut that thought off, but I don't think there's any other journey we can go on in life that loss floods you with so many different emotions at that moment, all the way up to the current moment you're in.
right. And
It's bizarre.
I think
to say the least.
I think the Western cultures also are real, like, tied up. Like Aaron, for instance, was like, I'm not gonna cry. I didn't see him cry. I was like, what the heck? And then there's my dad, Middle Eastern Arab, on his knees, sobbing, like almost like out of control, which I like. I'm like, yeah, show it. Like, I want you to all to cry because I want to see how much you loved my daughter.
Yeah.
But it's so, like my brother and my mom, like they were holding it in. My brother was wearing sunglasses so nobody saw him.
Yeah.
And I was like laid out. So it's almost like we don't even want people to see us losing control in our grief. And I think it's so important to lose control in your grief because it is a feeling of no control because you have none. There is nothing I could do to bring Eliza back. It's, you can't fix it.
Right.
So to see somebody just like completely fall apart, to me, it makes me more comfortable than seeing somebody like holding it in, like holding their breath so that they don't say or feel anything.
How do you if you're giving somebody advice today and they're dealing with grief and loss and they're doing it in a very cathartic, open book, just flat on the floor grief like
Yeah.
you experienced, to someone like your brother or Aaron who's rigid in their grief,
Yeah.
grief still there.
Yeah.
How do you process that? How would you tell someone to process that? How would you tell them to deal with?
Well, I would say that you will eventually deal with it. Aaron now, 8 years later, like he like starts to cry about something about Eliza that he didn't before.
Interesting.
I think that it's always going to be there in the pit of your stomach, or you can just let it be free. Like, I've cried so many times, and after I do, I feel better, like I can breathe.
Yeah.
And I would just say that there's nothing to be ashamed about. I think people think that it's weak, and everybody wants to be so strong, but strong is not going to make you not feel it. You're still going to feel it. You're just not going to show it, which doesn't make any sense. Just do it all. Just let it all, just feel the freedom to be able to share that pain. Because when somebody sees you like that, it's a whole different ballgame. You look at that person so differently, like, wow, that is what strength is, to be able to cry and lose a little bit of yourself in grief. So I think it's just, there's really nothing like being able to experience grief in its fullest form, in its fullest I'm going to lay down on the floor and scream at God and cry and do all of those things. And the other side of that, well, why wouldn't you want to share that? Because when you share it, people can see how much that person that they lost was loved.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing wrong with it. But for some reason, especially men, have learned that showing your emotions is not good. And it really is.
Yeah. Culture has a
Phew.
way of abusing.
Absolutely. Right?
In unintended ways.
Yeah.
Men are supposed to be these strong warriors.
Right.
But I can tell you how many people have sat in your seat right there that have been the toughest of the toughest guys that I've ever met in my life, that I have massive respect for, and have watched them now at another stage weep uncontrollably over loss of a friend, whether it be in combat or just natural causes.
Right.
I agree with you 100% that we should be that way. We should be in a culture where it should just be okay to let it go.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think culture has a stronghold where that's going to be a tough one to overcome.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we close out today, I do want to give an opportunity for you to talk about Eliza Hope Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And guys, if you can bring it up on the Blackbox screen here, and I'd love to have you share about Eliza Hope. So take us through the website here.
Yes. So this is our beautiful website with our sweet little girl. That was her first birthday, and so what we do at the Eliza Hope Therapy Center, which is right down the street, is we see children who are diagnosed, and we provide all the therapies: speech, occupational, physical therapy, behavioral therapy, in one center, so that they can come in, get all their therapies. Parents don't have to drive them all over the place. We have a social skills class that children 3 to 5 can attend, sort of in place of a typical daycare or typical preschool.
That's awesome.
And we have our Hope Stars, which is our sports league that it was my brother's idea because I always wanted Eliza to have a place to go like do dance and there was nothing. So we started Hope Stars and we do 8 weeks of different sports all throughout the year. And they get a jersey and they get a medal and it's like the most amazing thing. And we have a Swim Stars, which is our swim lessons for autistic children. And we have our gala every November, and that's coming up this November. And that is where we raise money for all of our programs. There it is, Hope Shines Gala. And it's been so successful. It's grown every year. It's a really beautiful night where we can not only honor Eliza, but honor all the kids that come through. And we sometimes have special guests come. Like we had a little boy who plays the piano, and he came last year and played. So yeah, and if you have or know somebody that has a child with autism or might think they have a child with autism, we also do the diagnosing at our center. And just go to our website, and there's a little spot that says schedule a tour. And if you go to that, yeah, look at that, schedule a tour. And then you can go on to the calendar and pick a date, and we'll give you a tour, give you all the information you need to start coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is super awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, if you can, go back to the website again here for me. Aimee, so are you set up as a 501c3?
Yes. Yep.
So a person can
Donate
family
tax free.
Okay.
And we make sure, like, we don't want anybody to struggle to be able to do any of our programs. So we take insurance. Each of the companies in our center takes insurance for the therapies. And then we have a scholarship program for our social skills. And our sports league and Swim Stars, it's just a minimal cost, like $25 for 8 weeks.
But if you had a family who couldn't
afford it, absolutely,
still they should call you, contact
absolutely.
you.
Yes,
There's going to be
we
companies,
always
families
have.
who will help.
Yes, we always
That's
have
awesome.
money for scholarships and programs. So never let money be an issue for this.
Ages, is there a cutoff?
3 to whenever. We have a 21-year-old who comes to Hope Stars and plays all the sports, and he loves it. He gets so excited to come.
That's
so it's
cool.
really cool. And we are expanding into the suite next to us. We just signed the lease yesterday, and we're doing a big build out.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And
Which is costly. We were talking
yes,
about
that's what I was
build-outs.
so like interested in. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's very costly. But we have a space that I'm thinking that I'm going to do a little coffee shop and have kids come. Lizzie could come make coffee for parents on their way to work. Because, I mean, it's such a great,
Yeah.
I mean, she would be perfect. Who would not want to see Lizzie at the in the morning giving coffee out?
Right.
I mean,
There is a place down in Wilmington, North Carolina that I stopped in once called Bodie. Bodie.
I know what it is.
Bobo's.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a coffee shop
Yes.
there where they use, where they give, not use, that's they give an opportunity
Yeah.
to kids with special needs to be able to be in the workplace, kind of
Yes.
like Sugar Plum Bakery
Yes,
with cakes.
yes, exactly.
It's their thing for
So
coffee.
good. So good.
And they've become
I know.
really, really popular.
I've seen it.
It's so popular that I can't.
I know.
There's my old age.
I
coming
can't
up.
remember the name, but I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about in Wilmington.
But that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
thought. You know,
Biddy and Booze.
what is it?
Coffee.
What is it?
It's I'm pulling it up.
Biddy and Booze.
Yes, yes, Biddy and
Booze,
Bo.
Booze, yeah,
Yeah, Biddy and Bo.
yeah. So that's really cool.
Yes.
Now we're here to talk about Eliza Hope today. So but
But
shout
that
out
is
to,
so great.
Yeah,
I'm into it.
yeah, yeah. I love that human rights movement disguised as a coffee shop.
Yes, so
That's really
good.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and these young people who have special needs, I even hate putting a check.
know.
They're
I
just
know.
amazing young people. We have a friend, David, who's friends with Lizzie, and he has autism. I don't know if you know Sammy and Brent Montella,
No.
but Sammy has a son, David, who's 20. He's probably 27, 28, seizure disorder, autism,
Yeah.
but such a wonderful human being, such a great guy. Every time he sees Kathleen, he's like, Kathleen, you're so beautiful. I'm like, David,
So
stop. You're
You're
making me look bad.
bad.
Pump the brakes, son.
Yes. I
But
know.
just a loving human being.
Yeah.
And so I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I love that you've given us an opportunity to share Eliza Hope's story and, the hope of helping other young people
Yeah.
through their journey of dealing with the spectrum disorders, that autism, to
Yeah.
being born without a piece of your brain, right?
Exactly.
So, and some would say that I'm in that
Exactly.
position sometimes. So.
Did Lizzie ever did Lizzie ever do therapies when she was younger?
She did.
Yeah.
Her neurologist,
Who was her neurologist?
Ralph Northam,
Yeah,
who used
he
to be
was
the governor of
Eliza's.
Virginia.
Yeah.
So, Ralph gave us the diagnosis at 6 months, and he was kind of like, pretty benign in the way,
Yes.
guys, she's got agenesis of the corpus callosum. And he gave us the worst case scenario, which was Lizzie will never walk. She'll never talk.
Right.
She'll never balance her checkbook, that kind of stuff. And Kat and I just said, look, Ralph, no offense, but you don't know the God we serve. And
Look at her. Look at her. Your sweet little girl is freaking so shining as her light in that row at church.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I was immediately, I was like, I need to know who that is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So sweet. So
But
good.
thank you. It's all her, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The
And it's
favorite
so
porter
pure.
is what we call
Yeah,
her.
she's the favorite porter. And it's funny because everything is just pure. She doesn't know any other way to be but
Right.
herself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so many young people with autism or spectrum, they're that way.
Yeah.
And again, I know there are probably some parents who are going to listen to this and go, no, I have that child who's
I know.
dealing with, it feels like anger, and
Yeah, I know.
man, my heart goes out to
I
them.
know. But that's why having a community of people is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Because just when you find the joyful child, meeting the joyful child, you'll also have the parent who has a kiddo that's like so sensory averse that
Yeah.
anything touching him makes him like go crazy. And then you'll find someone else just like that. So you can really have people that are going through the same thing.
What's it like trying to find helpers, professionals, staff to work with such special young people?
It's not hard.
It's not.
No.
I'm really surprised
Yeah,
that you
like
said
the
that.
therapists. I mean, we've been so lucky. All the therapists that Eliza ever had are all at our center.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And Miss Patty, who her and her daughter run our Jumpstart social skills program, Eliza went to that program. That has been the easier part, is finding these therapy companies to work with. Do we need more? Of course, we always need more. It's really difficult to get a diagnosis
Yeah.
because it's just like wait list. So that's why we were like, okay, we need to start being able to do this. So we did, and we right now don't have a wait list. So that's amazing. But I think that I think people want to be in this field, and when they find like a spot, our center, it's like beautiful. It's like really so nice. I love it. And they want to be there because they're with their kiddo, and then other therapists, and everybody's
Yeah.
collaborating, and it's great.
Do you have all-day activities? Do you do any type of care
We
for parents
don't.
that have to work? Or okay.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is parents that have to work
Yeah.
because I was that person.
Yeah.
But our social skills is 9 to 12, and then a lot of those kids have parents that work, so then they continue the ABA outside of the class, and then they go to speech, and then they go to OT, and then by the time all that's over, it's like 4:30.
Right.
But parents of children with autism, most of them have one person that has to stay home
Right.
and one person that works. And I mean, I'm sure it was the same with
Yeah, we were
Lizzie.
very fortunate that Kat, God bless us, had a good career.
Yeah.
Have a good career.
Yeah, yeah.
In business where we can give her the ability to stay home. But still, even then, those parents need respite. They need a break. Right?
Absolutely.
You need to be able to go to Vegas and
Exactly.
enjoy life like every
Exactly.
other human
Yes.
being.
And it's hard to find someone who, so we do respite nights. And so I really try to listen to what families need, because I only had Eliza till she was 4. So for parents that have kids at 8 and 9 and 10, I'm like, what do you need? So I have a list. I had this focus group a couple weeks ago with parents, and they told me all the things they need. It was like a huge, and I was like, all right, let's start checking them off.
Yeah, right. Be action oriented, right?
Exactly. You have to be.
Just give me a problem. Let's find a
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming and
Thank
sharing.
you.
I think I probably cried more today than any podcast, so you won the award for that.
Yes, I love it.
Thanks, Aimee.
I love it.
And what a beautiful little girl.
I know. She's
That's great. And
Yeah.
that you and Aaron found this calling to
Yeah.
help other parents, and that you found a way in your grief to be able to give back to a community that really, really needs this.
yeah.
This level of care and service. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Folks, if you would like to give, if you'd like to know how to give, you can go to Eliza, ELIZA, Hope, HOPE.org, and you can find out more about the Eliza Hope Foundation. You mind sharing budget? Like what's it cost a year to run a facility like this?
Our budget is around $500,000.
Not cheap.
Not cheap, but it's getting ready to double because
Yeah.
we have the new space that we need. So we're doubling our square footage.
Wow.
So
Folks, you're so blessed to have kids. You're so blessed to have an opportunity to raise a family. There's nothing better. I've got 5, and as hard as it's been, and now 9 grandkids, and there's little trials and tribulations along the way. But there's nothing better.
Yeah.
Wouldn't trade it for the world.
definitely.
But sometimes there's going to be events that occur in your life that nobody would wish it on you. But there are families who need help, families who aren't financially able to help their kids with special needs and disorders that can be made better yet. It's not a cure.
Right.
But we certainly can make life a little more palatable for everyone. So please give.
Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity, if this tugs on your heartstrings, or even if you're a tough guy and it just didn't move the needle for you at all, give anyway.
Yeah.
It's a great organization. It's a great opportunity to be a great American
Absolutely.
and just give back to a community that's doing well by doing good.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, so thank
Yeah.
you for coming
Thank
out
you.
and sharing your story with us. There was a lot we could have unraveled and talked through, but
Absolutely.
I just wanted to stay on this today.
Absolutely. Part 2
Part 2,
coming soon.
bring Aaron back.
I would
and
love to.
A different perspective, I think,
Yeah.
would be really
yeah.
cool to
That would be.
hear. And it's great to get to know you.
Yeah, you too.
And looking forward to having more conversations with you.
Definitely. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Miami, reduce speed to 180.
Blackbox.